Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Let the conversation begin. This is Let's Talk with your host, Carl Lee.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and this is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And we have actually, I'm going to call this a Hollis. I'm going to call this like a follow-up show.
Yeah, there you go.
We didn't get enough information, or I didn't think I got enough information for the public to understand the nutritional side from an actual meal prep type of thing. Mm-hmm. We didn't get into the weightlifting or running, that type of thing. So we've got Andrew Wright here again today. You know, a back-to-back guest. Might be our first. This is our first back-to-back. Yeah. It's our first back-to-back, so that's a big deal.
I'm honored.
So Andrew is a biomedical scientist.
That's right.
Which we got some of that information in the first show, mm-hmm. and for me, I need to bring that down, simplify that for me somewhat, just so that I can understand and our public can get enough information from you, because I really feel like this was a topic that I think parents are looking to for their kids. They're trying to get the most out of their kids' abilities. And I've seen probably more people with trainers training than maybe ever before. Yeah, and I think that's the hot thing. So I want us to be able to kind of get into that piece. So let me ask this question kind of like right out of the chute. If I am, let's say, a 15-year-old athlete,
okay,
and I'm looking, I'm athletic, but I need some weight. I need to get stronger. I need kind of a little bit of everything. How do I start? How do I find you? How do I find somebody like you? Like, how does that all start for the parent that's out there who's wanting to maybe find that? How do they get to you? How do they determine who is the right person for their kid or for them to work with?
There's a phrase that I like to use: check the resume. Okay. And if that angers somebody out there, it's probably because they don't have a very good one. And what that means is that there are a lot of personal trainers out there. But last time I was on, I went into the distinction between athletic trainer and personal trainer, and that they're not the same thing.
Right.
And I'm going to reiterate that the personal training industry is a Wild West show. It is completely unregulated. And there are multiple certifications you can get where, again, to summarize, you just order some books. You pay a fee, they send you a book, and whenever you're ready, you get online, you take an online open book test and at your home. And if you get a 70 or above, you get a little certificate that says you're a personal trainer. And in my opinion, that does not make you qualified. That's a little bit insane.
Okay, and yours, a lot of your certifications, you've done this through actual true educational
college. Correct. Yeah, I went to college for this.
College. Yes. Yeah. So there is that's a distinct difference.
Right.
When you go to college, get that as a degree versus
a little certificate.
A little certificate that you are. And again, we're not knocking on anybody.
Right.
We're just making the case. I wanted to make sure we got a difference. We understood what the difference was and the relevance of it.
Right. And that's what I recommend for the first step for parents is to do a background check. Check on who the person is. What is their background? If they're an athletic trainer, they're going to have a 4-year bachelor's degree in exercise science, sports medicine, biomedical science, something like this, where they have a background where they actually understand enough about how the human body works, how to apply exercise to the physiology to get the result that is required, right? It's not just about, well, I read this and now I'm going to tell you to do this. Regurgitation of information is not knowledge or education or understanding. You need
Say that again. Say that again, because I think that's important.
Regurgitation of information is not knowledge. You're just taking verbiage that you read somewhere that you don't understand, and you're repeating it to someone and passing it off as expertise. And that is not adequate. That's ridiculous. You need to be able to look at your client, look at your athlete, assess them, figure out what the circumstances of the situation are, assess the human body, how it works, what information you're getting from them, and then you need to make an educated decision on what needs to change to help them. The whole thing here is we're here to help people. If you're not here to help people, you're in the wrong discipline. And you need someone to train your child or to train you that actually has an education here. And that's what an athletic trainer is. They actually have a 4-year degree in education, and they're probably certified through ACE, which is the American Council of Exercise, or the American College of Sports Medicine, because again, those certifications, they're required to have a proctored exam at a facility where you're looked at, you're watched. There's 150 multiple choice questions, and as Hollis and I talked about, there's a section at the end which is program design. You have a paragraph that gives you a case study of a client, and it says this is the information, now design the program. You have to write it out, and if you don't write out the correct type of program, then you don't get certified.
And you have to have continuing
education credits to maintain your certification.
Yeah.
So if I'm a 15-year-old playing football,
yep.
And I want to train. I want to get a little bit bigger. Mom, Dad wants me to get a little bit bigger. They want me to, buff up a little bit. There's two parts of that, I think. It's the training aspect, the lifting weights, running, that piece of it, and then there's the nutritional side to that helps.
Correct.
If I'm meal prepping, what am I eating? What are the good things and what are the bad things? And I think some people know, you're probably not supposed to have a candy bar. You're probably not supposed to do these kind of things, but the food that some people might think might be good, that may not be good.
Right.
So can you give us a little bit of insight of how do I get that 15-year-old a little bit bulkier just from the meal prep before we get into the running and lifting part of that as well?
So let's talk about that. Now, I watched what we talked about last time, right? So I critiqued what we talked about, right? So I'm prepared today. Okay? All right now.
You were prepared before. I just wanted to make sure
I was winging it before, guys. But I want to go back to the nutrition part a little bit, and I want to reiterate something, and I want to make it perfectly clear. Because one of the things that Hollis said last week is that nutrition can enhance. It has the possibility of enhancing. I want to clarify that the importance of nutrition cannot be overstated. It is not just important. It is the intellectual foundation of the entire thing we're talking about here. How much so? If the nutrition is there, then it is possible for the athlete to maximize their performance and ability. If the nutrition is there, it is possible to maximize the athlete's ability and function. If nutrition is not there, it is impossible. It cannot be done. They can get better. They will improve. But can they maximize their genetic potential without the nutrition being there and the hydration and rest recovery? Absolutely not. It is absolutely biochemically impossible. Now, if the nutrition's there, does that mean that they will reach their genetic potential? No. Because the training has to be there, not just the training, the correct training, the goal-specific training, as you've mentioned, goal-specific, sport-specific training,
and their potential, not
right,
their
potential
individual
potential. Have to mean
they don't mean they're going to be the top
D1.
Just their potential,
just whatever's there for them.
Because the second fundamental principle here, the first one is nutrition, the second was genetics. Right.
Genetic, okay.
You can't out-train a bad diet, and you can't out-train your genetics.
Yeah, okay, got you.
Those are the two most fundamental things that are going to dictate how far you can go in sport: is nutrition and your genetics. Period. End of story.
Okay, but I want to ask Coach Lee a question, because you've reiterated on the show several times kind of your regimen when you were in high school and middle school and how you propelled yourself to the NFL, and you've talked about your training. What was your diet like at that time, or were you even considering that?
I didn't consider much in the diet because, one, I don't know if I want to say that I was fortunate. I needed to always add weight.
Genetics.
Yeah.
You know, so
Genetics.
what was important for me was getting in shape, being at the best shape I could possibly be in, and pick up weight. That was always a conflict of interest to me.
Were you just eating any and everything?
Yeah,
or like
you know,
candies?
I was huge on peanut butter. I was huge on peanut butter sandwiches. You know, I would eat basically anything. You know, anything that I could get to help me pick up weight.
Okay, so there was some thought there. It wasn't
there was thought to get heavier, and then the offset of that was the running.
Yeah, you would just lose it. So,
I mean, I was burning it constantly. I mean, I was, you know, there was times when I could be out, I could run in the morning and ride my bike in the evening. You know, I was constantly focused on the conditioning piece of it, where the meal side of it didn't play a big role for me because I wasn't trying to lose anything. I was just trying to pick it up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Got it.
What is that? When I say that, how does that sound? What do you think when you hear that?
Unfortunate.
Okay.
Because if you were able to do what you were able to do, winging it, imagine what you could have done if you had nailed it. And what does that mean? Nutrition. Okay, 100%. We are what we eat. Okay, our biochemistry, what our biochemistry is able to do, what our genetics are able to do, is dependent on what materials are available, period. That's just the way it works. Now, I don't want to get completely off the range here again, right? So I'm going to go and try to get into what you asked a minute ago. Okay. With regards to, with the parents out there. How do we take all of the knowledge that I dropped last week and what we've talked about so far today and actually apply that? Okay. Application is important. Knowledge is useless without application, right? So let's talk about that. So there needs to be two foundational approaches here to your child's nutrition with regards to athletics. There's foundational and situational, right? So let's talk about, think of foundational as your long-term approach and your situational as your short-term approach, right? So what does that mean? So long-term, you need three basic disciplines that you need to focus on for your child. You need hydration, you need structure, intake structure, and you need proper food selection. Those three things have to be in place. If those three things are in place, they need to be in place for the basic development and growth of your child outside of athletics. Okay. Without regards to the game, without regards to the practice. You need to take into consideration the daily exercise and things, right? But for your child's basic growth and development, these things have to be there. Even if you're not an athlete. If you want to be healthy, this has to be in place.
And hydration, when you start talking about hydration, that's not drinking just anything.
Water, period.
Yeah, that's water.
Yes.
That's water. And that's something I do now. Like I'm huge into water now. That's basically almost all I drink, and I drink it like pretty much all day.
Would that be water and fruits? Because fruits they provide a level of hydration too, correct? I mean, I'm asking.
Certain fruits.
Well, it depends, because when we're talking about hydration, it is a balance of water intake and electrolyte intake. Okay. Because we have something called osmotic pressure, osmotic balance. It's a balance between water and sodium in our body. Which is why if we're stranded out in the ocean, we can't drink ocean water and hydrate because the concentration of salt is so high, we actually dehydrate ourselves drinking salt water, right? Yeah. So fruits, not necessarily. We can't count that as hydration because there's probably sodium and other things in there that may offset the hydration. I mean, there are fruits that will help hydration, but I don't want to put misinformation out there and people think that it's a blanket statement. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. But with regards to hydration, that's one thing that I did want to talk about today because it's underrated with regards to the importance of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna lay some stuff down here so people understand how vital is hydration. If you are in athletics and you're playing a game or you're doing practice, okay, depending on the intensity of the exercise or the practice of the game, and depending on the ambient temperature, an athlete can lose between 2 to 3 quarts of fluids per hour.
I've been there.
Per hour. And you're also going to be losing electrolytes, namely sodium.
Yeah.
So what does that do? So let's talk about what that effect can have on the athlete. So let's talk about performance, okay? How will it affect performance if we're dehydrated? This is what it's going to do, okay? Our joints are cushioned by water. Not only that, there is something called synovial fluid that our body creates and releases into our joints that is like the lubrication system of our joints. So if we're the Tin Man, okay, and we're in the Wizard of Oz, synovial fluid is what's going to be in the can that we need Dorothy to come and pop onto our joints. It's synovial fluid. And the number one component of synovial fluid? Water. So how will that affect performance? If you're dehydrated, we don't have enough water to properly cushion our joints, and we can't properly release synovial fluid. So what does that do? That's going to decrease our speed, and it's going to decrease our flexibility. And that's going to have a huge compromising effect on your performance during the game or the practice. That's your performance. Now, what about your endurance? If you're dehydrated, okay, muscles are 75% water. So if you're dehydrated, then the muscle's going to be dehydrated. If your muscle tissue is dehydrated, the contractile ability of the muscle decreases. That means they can't contract as efficiently. Number one. Number two.
And hold on. And when you say contract, what? Just in layman term, what does that mean? Just
create force.
Okay, got you. Okay, got you.
Or the speed at which they can create
got you.
force.
Okay.
That being said, what about endurance within the muscle? Okay. Where do we get energy from in the muscle? Adenosine triphosphate, ATP, right? And adenosine triphosphate, when we run out of ATP, the muscle goes into a failure where it no longer can produce force at that frequency or that intensity, right? Now, there's something called the Krebs cycle that replenishes ATP. And the Krebs cycle requires glucose, right? And where does it get glucose? Glycogen stores within the muscle cells, okay? Muscle cells store sugar. Why? For the Krebs cycle to replenish ATP so the muscles can keep going during the game, during the workout. Is that clear?
Yep.
Now,
So that's why you have the endurance athletes. They'll eat the pasta, they'll eat the pancakes and stuff like that.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute when we go into how to feed the athlete properly.
Got you. Okay.
And prepare them for the game, which we're going to go into.
Got you.
That being said, if you're dehydrated, your glycogen formation ability is compromised because for every gram of glucose, it has to chemically bond to 2.7 grams of water. So if you're dehydrated, your ability to store sugar in your muscle cells is compromised. So your endurance is going to go down. Now, so that's two factors that hydration dehydration will affect. A third one that nobody considers is your oxygen exchange rate. Our lungs have to be moist. If our lungs are not moist, we decrease the ability to add oxygen to the hemoglobin and release carbon dioxide into the air. When we breathe out and we can see our breath, it's water vapor, right? We have to have moist lungs for proper oxygen exchange, which is very important during a game or a workout because carbon dioxide buildup as a result of anaerobic metabolism will compromise performance. So breathing is the third thing. And the fourth thing, muscles are 75% water, your brain is 80% water. If we're dehydrated, your cognitive ability also decreases. Your ability to concentrate and make split-second decisions like a quarterback or wide receiver goes down.
So that's why
those are four fundamental things that your body has to have on point to maximize your performance in the game. And just a 2% dehydration will compromise all four of them.
Because that's why I can remember those hot summer days in August or September, and the phlegm. Because if you don't have enough hydration, you get the dry cough and the phlegm is coming up.
Yes,
correct.
That connects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
you guys have experienced everything that I just said. You just didn't know.
Didn't know what it was.
Didn't know what it was.
At
all. And them crazy coaches, not you, but like the old school coaches. They wouldn't. You can't drink no water. Remember that?
That
was crazy.
I was through that and did that even when I was at state because I was so used to earning water.
Yeah.
You know, you had to kind of earn. You kind of had to earn a reason for a break.
And that would hints, like you just said, like far as probably the muscle spasms, the cramps, the cognitive issues. So if somebody has like a brain aneurysm on the field, they may have just simply not been hydrated.
Well, that's exactly right. And
That's
when
crazy.
you get dehydrated, you when you're losing that 2 to 3 ounces of fluid per hour, or quarts, quarts, not ounces, excuse me. You're also losing electrolytes, primarily sodium, right?
Yeah.
What is sodium? NaCl, right? Sodium chloride. Okay. Now, Na has a positive charge. Cl has a negative charge. How do we contract muscles, right? It's the nervous system. Our nervous system. It's our neuromuscular system. Our muscles contract due to an electrical signal that is sent through the nervous system. The nervous system is basically a massive electrical grid. Okay. And the electrolytes are responsible for that electrical charge. If we have an unequal balance of positive and negative charges in a specific area of the body, that can create a cramp, which is like a misfire. Mm-hmm. And that's what a cramp is. So this is so well known that the 3 main components that need to be included during a game to maintain performance is water, hydration, glycogen replenishment, sugar, and electrolyte replenishment. Which is electrolytes, okay? This was so well understood so many years ago that the scientists down at Florida University created a drink to assist the Gators, the Florida Gators, and they called it Gatorade.
Gatorade, yeah.
There you go.
Got you.
That's and I don't really remember when Gatorade actually started taking place, but I can almost make the case that it wasn't there, or it wasn't there when I was working out, or I had no access to it.
Well, they fed my dad salt tablets when he was
Yes.
And they had no idea they were further compromising his hydration level.
Yes, you used to get the salt. You used to get the salt pills.
No water, just salt tablets.
And
that's crazy.
And
It's
they used to,
insane.
and potassium.
Correct.
They would give you potassium also, and that was supposedly for your cramps.
But you had to earn your water.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So they're giving you this
crazy.
stuff without the
water.
Where actually what you're saying and the way this works is the water is the critical piece.
Yeah. And let's bring it home. So for the parents that's watching, you got the 15-year-old kid. How much water should they be intaking? Should they get a gulp as soon as you wake up before you go to bed? How does that work?
You should start drinking as soon as you get out of bed. Like there should be a bottle of water ready to go as soon as you get out of bed. Now, so here's a rule for you guys. This is going to help the parents out. Okay, how much water does your kid need? Okay, if they don't do athletics, just remember the baseline, the long term, the foundational approach here that I spoke about a second ago. Take the child's body weight. This is just a rule of thumb that'll help them out, help parents out. Take the child's body weight. Let's say they weigh 150 pounds. Divide it by 2, and that's how many ounces they need every day to stay hydrated. That does not include the game. It does not include practice.
That's just
Correct.
any child.
That's just on a day they don't do anything outside of their normal
But that's a child who
activity
don't even
and
play
exercise.
athletics.
That's
just
a child
anybody.
that doesn't even play athletics.
Got you.
And even that kid even though he's not participating in a sport, could also be burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he goes out and plays tag.
Yeah.
I mean, anything, any type of activity.
And assuming that they don't eat, assuming that they don't eat, they don't eat breakfast, or they just grab something and go.
Right.
Now they're already in a deficit already.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wild. And we stayed out of the deficit when I was a kid because we used to drink from random not fire hoses, but water hoses.
Yeah,
remember those?
Yeah.
I don't know if you were around.
That's pretty much where you would get your water. Yeah. And it's funny because I drink water like almost all day now.
Correct. You feel different, don't you?
I do.
100% different.
I do, and I work out. I go home. And I've gotten myself now into this like late workout program. I'm like running.
Right.
Probably I can get on the treadmill anywhere between 9, 10 o'clock. And, I'll do my 30-minute run.
Got your system down.
And I'm good. And it's even funny because on the days that I don't drink a lot of water, I do feel like I am struggling a little bit more.
You're compromised.
Than I would be if I've spent most of the day with my water bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that you won't be able to play.
Right, I understand.
Or
Yeah,
you won't be able
yes.
to practice, but you won't be able to play at your top potential.
And that's and just for anybody listening, that's what you're saying. The comments you're making is saying if you want to be at your maximum potential, if you want to reach that, then these are the things.
And
that
your
you
max
probably
may
wanna
only be.
Yeah.
It may not be where
We're just talking
mine
about
is,
your
where
individual
yours
max,
is, where
yeah.
yours is. It may be just where theirs is, and you don't even know that yet.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you've
You'll
been
never know.
compromised, you may never reach
You'll
that
never know.
point,
Right.
Because you haven't put yourself in the best position,
Right.
And
to even perform that.
so and I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit. So we've talked about like the nutrition last show. We talked about the hydration now. So what about like the supplements? So what about like the creatine, amino acids, the protein powder? Because there's been a lot of controversy on those sort of products and like, are they good? Are they bad? When should you take them? Those type of things.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay. I think that there should be a differentiation between nutritional supplements and then supplements. What's the difference? Nutritional supplements are what they say. They are nutrition, right? So protein powder, that shouldn't really be looked upon as a supplement. It's food. It is a protein source. It comes from milk. Okay. So it's not like a stimulant, like a pre-workout or a fat burner or any of that kind of stuff. I don't recommend any of that stuff. Anything that's unnatural, like herbs and all this wild stuff. Okay. Hocus pocus. Okay. We need to stick with the foundational building blocks and requirements for the biochemical reactions that we need, as I touched on last week. So amino acids, what are those? Those are the building blocks of protein.
Yeah.
Well, there's three, the branched chain amino acids, for instance. There's branched chain amino acid supplements. Those are the three most abundant amino acids required for muscle growth. So if you're trying to grow your muscles, if you supplement with branched chain amino acids, that's just additional amino acids that you could normally get from protein, but your muscles need a little bit more of those three to be able to increase muscular hypertrophy. So it's going to benefit you to supplement with those. Essential amino acids, good. Branched chain amino acids, good. Glutamine's good. Protein powder, good. Creatine is the most well-studied supplement.
That's what I heard. I heard it's brain function as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it basically, you have different ways to supplement and power anaerobic glycolysis, which is what powers muscular contraction. One of them is the Krebs cycle, as I talked about a second ago that I mentioned, and then the other one is the creatine phosphate system. And all creatine basically is if you have additional creatine available, then theoretically you're going to be able to replenish ATP faster at a more efficient rate when you're training or when you're in the game.
If you're taking creatine, how frequent should you take it?
Daily.
Once a day?
When you first start out, you should probably take it more than once a day. About 5 grams. I usually have my athletes or clients start out with 5 grams 2 to 3 times a day for about 10 days, and then you can drop down to 5 grams a day to maintain your levels.
All right. Well, real quick, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Carl Lee. Visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk for more.
Sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Carl Lee at letstalk@promessage.com, Dale Cooper at dcooper@wvradio.com, or call 304-342-8131. Ask Carl a question or comment on current or previous episodes. Visit Let's Talk Carl Lee on Facebook. Like, rate, and subscribe from your podcast service to help more people find Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're just coming back after break. I hope that you caught a host of the information given out that Andrew provided for us in the first half of the show. It was educational for me,
For sure.
and again, I'd like to think, that I had some understanding of kind of what was going on for me, but I could see too now in hindsight, even looking back and even training now, seeing that I'm missing some pieces and some reality and some things that I could, add to my diet that could be beneficial for me.
Let's get to the fun stuff now.
So now we're talking about. I want to jump into the actual training piece, the actual physical training, whether in both categories, from the running to the lifting to this, maybe even to the stretching. Tell us a little bit about that role that you play with, and this is probably going to be, I want to start this as sports specific,
Okay.
and let's say football.
Okay.
So if you've got a football player and he says, "Look, I need to get stronger. I need to get this. I want this. I want a body like this. I want to be cut up like this." What is your process when you put your eyes on him and you go from there? Tell us a little bit about where that process starts and where it gets to. How do you get to the end?
Okay. Well, the first thing we need to talk about is what are they actually hiring me for?
Right.
What do you want to do? Do you want to increase your speed agility? Do you want to increase?
I want to do both because I want to be this really, really good football player. I need to be a little bit stronger. I need to be a little bit quicker. I need help.
Right. Well,
If that's the hardest, I want to make it the hardest.
Right.
I want to make it the hardest.
Right. So to touch base on what you said earlier about what should a parent look for when hiring someone. Almost all coaches and trainers out there have some type of specialization. So for me, right, like if someone came to me and said, "I want to do speed agility," I'm going to refer them to someone else.
Okay.
If that is their prime focus.
Okay.
It's not that I can't help with that. It's just that morally and ethically, that is not my specialty. So there's a guy named T.R. Dews in this area. You probably know who he is, right? He does the train wreck training. I think he's got a really good system going down over there. So if I had a kid that wanted to do speed agility, I'd probably send him to T.R., right? If I had someone that wanted to improve their golf swing, as I spoke about last week, or improve their swing with the bat, then I'd probably send them to Randy Gillespie, another one of my coworkers that I have a lot of respect for in the business. But with regards to changing their body and making it more efficient with regards to neurotiming, with regards to muscle composition, and these things, that is my specialty. Changing the body so that what he does with TR is going to be way better, way more efficient. What he does with Randy is going to be way more efficient. That's my specialty. Does that make sense?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's two types of training that we need to talk about. Now, I'm going to talk about both of them. So you should separate them out. Speed agility training and sports-specific training. When we're talking about sports-specific training, we're talking about what? Skill development, right? There's a different skill set required to be a football player than there is to be a basketball player. So do not hire a basketball player, former basketball player, to train your football player.
Yeah.
Can we not do that?
Yeah.
I mean, can we at least agree that that's madness?
Yeah,
Okay?
100%.
So do not train.
If you don't think about it, you wouldn't think about it
Right.
until you say it.
Right.
But once you say it, I totally get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't hire a power lifter to train you to be a bodybuilder. And don't train a long distance runner. Don't hire a long distance runner to teach you how to be an Olympic sprinter.
Yeah.
There is a specialization level that you should look for when you're hiring someone. What do you actually do? And what are your qualifications for doing it? And how long have you been doing it? And what are the success stories or lack thereof that you have or don't have? And that's to answer that question that you asked earlier. But to get back to it, you need to separate the two types of training out: the sports-specific training, which is skill development, and speed agility. Why? Because when we're training that way, we're not training the muscular system. I want to make this clear. We're training the nervous system. What we're talking about with skill development and sports-specific training with regards to the skills required and speed agility training, we're trying to get the nervous system more efficient. So let's talk about the analogy of riding a bike. Everybody in this room rode a bike when they were a kid, right?
Yeah.
What happened the first time you got on a bike? How'd that go? Were you amazing at it, Carly? Did you knock it out of the park, buddy?
No.
You're the genetic freak in the room. Did you knock it out of the park?
I took some spills.
Okay, we all did. So let's talk about what's going on there, okay? When you get on the bike the first time, okay, your brain has different sections that have different jobs. So let's say you have your cerebral cortex. That's the CPU. I'm going to use a computer analogy so everybody can follow along. You have the CPU, the cerebral cortex, and its job is to figure things out. And when you're on the bike the first time, the only thing you're thinking about is how to ride this bike and not fall down. How do you get this bike down the street and not fall off of it? And you're giving every single cognitive aspect you possess to that skill. And you're terrible. You're atrocious. It's embarrassing. Okay. Now, 2 years down the road, you get on the bike and you just kick it right on down the street. How much cognitive involvement is taking place there? Zero.
Yeah.
And that is the goal in athletics. The nervous system. The goal, it's called automaticity. Automaticity is the term. What does that mean? When we're trying to learn a new skill, like riding a bike, throwing a football, shooting a basketball, what we're trying to do is create something called a motor engram in neuroscience. What it is it's basically a computer program that tells the brain and the spinal cord what motor units and what muscle groups to recruit at what frequency, what intensity, and in what order to perform the skill. How to ride the bike. The brain has to figure out how to ride the bike. The CPU has to figure out how to ride the bike. Now, once the CPU figures out how to ride the bike, it's figured out, it's stored on the hard drive.
Okay.
You don't need to think about it anymore.
I like what you did there.
That's called the autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
Automaticity. We want to get the quarterback to be able to throw the football through the tire without having to think about it cognitively at all. Because if we can do that, then that frees the CPU up to think about reading the defense, checking the routes for the wide receivers, actually play the game.
Yeah.
The skills have to be developed to a point of automaticity so that it's automatic in the autonomic nervous system. And that takes 3 phases, right? There's the cognitive phase, which is where you're thinking about it and you're really focused on it. And in that part, the neurons in the brain, you're forming what's called a neural pathway, and that is a chemical pathway. I'm not going to get too deep into this, okay? But the second part is association phase, where you're starting to form a structural neural pathway. And then the third phase is the autonomic part, where you have formed the motor engram, and it's a permanent structural pathway. Because if you go 5 years and you don't ride your bike, when you get back on it, do you have to learn how to do it again?
Yeah.
Your body just knows how to do it.
You know how to ride the bike.
Okay, so let me. So this takes me. This jumbles up my brain for a second. When I was in Minnesota and Pete Carroll was there.
Yes.
One of the things that he made us do was there was like a step punch. Like he would make us do that like a million times to a point where your back, like your back would be killing you. And
training the nervous system.
And exactly what he was doing was to make this become such a habit.
Correct.
That no matter what the guy did, no matter what shake he would give you, you would do that thing first before anything. That's exactly, you do it automatically.
Right.
And it's amazing to me because when you were saying that came so clear to my head and the analogy of the quarterback was like perfect because I was like, oh, so that's what that was.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is, and I don't know if there's an answer to this, is why would some person be better at it than the other person who's doing the same drill?
The same reason some people can go to medical school and some people can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people's CPUs are way higher processors than other people.
Okay.
Yeah. And maybe they have a larger hard drive as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Wow. So let me ask you this, specific to kind of what you do, and what I've seen you do is a lot of bodybuilder training.
That's a misconception.
Well, I'm just saying what I've seen.
Yes.
And what I've seen is that I've seen you start with somebody who's mush, essentially. And that's not hating.
Tell me what you really think, Hollis.
No, I'm just saying I've seen him do this.
And the pictures
I've seen it. I've seen you start with somebody who just was an average looking Joe or Josephina. And just turn him into like a competitive bodybuilder.
Or at least their version of it.
I'm just saying their version of it.
Well, that's my specialty, and I think that the reason is my approach to it, because when someone comes in and sits down, when we do, like I said, we do the consult first. What drives me crazy is the way that other coaches, other trainers treat them, especially doctors and other personal trainers. If you got a guy that needs to lose 100 pounds, and he comes into the gym, he's intimidated by the gym. The problem is that everybody's treating him like a fat dude needs to lose weight. And they've convinced him of that. And that angers me. Because who said that's who you are? Right? In your head, maybe you're an athlete. How do you know you're not an athlete? You've never been given a chance for that type of training. You've never had someone put that much attention into your nutrition. Right? And that's not fair. It's not fair for me to treat a quarterback this way and treat someone with type 2 diabetes some other way. Right? Not to say that there's not subtle variations. I need to be conscientious of the medical history. But to not put as much effort into this person and to write them off as just some out of shape, obese person that just needs to lose a few pounds, that's not fair. It drives me crazy. And it's one of the reasons why I do this for a living, because I think everybody has a right to this knowledge. Everybody has a right to someone to believe in them to say, look, how come you can't go rock climbing in 2 years? Why? Why not? I can get you there. The problem is everybody's convinced you that you'll never be able to do that, and that's ridiculous.
And one of the methodologies I've seen on your Instagram and your social media is that, as far as just the lifting part of it, you'll have them do the movement, explode the movement, then contract very slowly.
Correct.
Back. What's the science behind that?
Well, there are two phases. Well, I'll take it further and say there's 4 phases of every repetition within a set. There is the concentric, the eccentric are the main 2 phases. I don't like those terms because they sound the same, even though they're opposite. So I like to use positive and negative. So positive is the contraction, negative is the return to the starting position. And then the other 2 phases that I've added on there personally is the transitions between the 2 phases. There's 2 transitions at each end.
Yeah.
There's 4 phases. There's the positive, the negative, and the 2 transitions. Studies have shown unequivocally that the negative is the most important part of the repetition.
So that's like when I'm on the bench, just for somebody, I'm on the bench, I lift the bench up, then I'm bringing it back down to starting point. That's the negative, right?
That's the negative, the return to the starting position.
Going like real slow. Okay.
It creates more micro trauma, stimulates more muscle growth, and therefore more adaptation than the positive. It creates so much more impact with regards to adaptation that I have pushed it even further in my mind, the way that I teach it to my clients and athletes, that I want you to think about the positive as the least important. The contraction is the least important. The only purpose of the contraction is to reset so you can do another negative. That's how important the negative is. And that's why I do that, because you will accelerate the muscular gains at a dramatic rate. And so get back to what we were talking about a second ago, the differentiation between the 2 types of training. The training with skill development is nervous system. We're training the nervous system, like you talked about with Pete Carroll, okay? But then there's also the actual muscles, the skeletal muscle, right? We want to increase the size of the muscle or the ability to create force. That's the whole reason we train the muscles. And there are 3 fiber types. There's type 1, there's type 2A, and type 2X. Now, the type 1 fiber is what's called aerobic or endurance fiber, right? And it's used for specific things, right? And then there's the type 2A, which is used for specific things, which creates more force. And there's the type 2X. Type 2X is the fiber that has the higher propensity for muscle growth, the higher propensity for creating force and speed, right? Slow twitch versus fast twitch. Fast twitch has 2 fibers, slow twitch has 1. Now, so depending on what someone's goal is, you can change the ratio of those fiber types to change their level of performance or composition of their anatomy. Bigger biceps, bigger triceps, bigger deltoids, or biceps that have more endurance, biceps that create more force. The differentiation between the 2 fiber types can be clearly seen when you compare a long distance runner to a sprinter. What do their bodies look like?
Yeah, totally dramatically
It's completely different.
Yeah.
So when you have a 100-meter sprinter, their muscles are predominantly type 2 fibers.
Well,
they have trained themselves that way.
Let me ask this question, because to that point, that sprinter, that 100 or 200-yard sprinter,
yes,
that body type has changed drastically.
Correct.
In the last 20 years or so.
Right.
Because that guy used to be thin. He could be cut, but he wasn't thick. Like he wasn't like his chest wasn't like the size of my entire body.
Yeah. Right. These guys look like running backs now.
But now, they
wide receivers.
They're faster and they're way I'll use the term bulky than they used to be. Where is and now they have that fat and they are blessed with that fast twitch muscle.
Correct.
Like how does that how does that all work? Because Old
With
school,
regards to what? How does it work?
Old school was if you were that guy, that thick guy, you're the 100 meter, you got no shot. You ain't got a fast twitch muscle in you.
Right.
And now you see that guy with is there growth in the fast twitch? Like, can you grow a fast twitch?
Yeah. So that's okay. So predominantly, it used to be thought that whatever ratio you have of type 1 to type 2, I prefer to use those as say to slow twitch or fast twitch because slow and fast twitch confuse people. So
Okay.
type 1 to type 2, right? It used to be predominantly thought that whatever ratio in each, like, and the ratios could be different. You might be like 60-40 in your biceps and like 50-50 in your quads. So it's different, but it's different sections of the body have different ratios, right? It used to be predominantly thought and believed that whatever you're born with is what you've got. But now it's understood now over the past 10 years that you can train specific muscles in specific ways to get type 1 fibers to convert over to type 2 fibers.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
So you're telling me you can train yourself, or a kid can train himself to get fast, quick twitch muscles.
Correct.
You can. Wow. So I never know that.
See, that's why I asked the question because, like,
again, goal specific, fiber specific. There's fiber specific training as well. If you understand myoscience, which is the science of,
because when you're training on that level, that's actually that could propel you dramatically, as opposed to, like you said, just getting in shape and just making sure I'm strong and everything like that.
I've got a specific kid in my mind. I can see this specific kid in the gym at the rec who plays football, plays basketball. He's an aggressive kid.
yeah.
He in basketball he's guaranteed almost to foul out like almost every game. Like
and you need that guy.
That's the attitude. That's the attitude problem. That's not training.
And one of the questions, is in hearing you talk about, the fast twitch is not something that you're just necessarily quote born with, but you can train it. I couldn't imagine him being trained in a fast twitch to create fast twitch muscles, because he would be like, if he got into a training process, he's probably way too young right now, but if he was there in 14, 15, 16, or whatever age that you would like, that he would be able to do that, I can't even imagine.
Well, let's talk about that.
I didn't realize you could train that way.
Well,
I didn't either.
Right. Well, most people don't. Right. So, but. And again, it comes back to who do you hire? You hire someone that understands the depth of which the goal specific that you have for your child or yourself. Now, with regards to that, that's another thing. You need to understand that the neurological process that I explained earlier with regards to throwing a football, it also applies to doing the barbell curl. That's something I tried to touch on last time that we didn't get into. If you this is something I want you both to remember, and everybody out there listening, please pay attention to this. Everybody talks about consistency for success. But if you consistently do something wrong, consistently becomes a negative factor in your training. And you can take someone into the gym, and if they're doing everything wrong, right? And what do I mean by wrong? I mean, you're a football player, but you go to the gym and all you do is free throws. What are you doing, bro? Okay. Yeah. If you go to take resistance training and you're trying to create muscular hypertrophy, you're trying to stimulate type 2X fiber recruitment and increases in size to create more force at a faster speed, but you're doing resistance training in a way that targets the type 1 fibers, what are you doing, bro? You're a basketball player doing football training, or you're a football player kicking a soccer ball. Why are you doing that? It drives me crazy. And I see people in there all the time that say, I'm a bodybuilder, but they're training like powerlifters. It's like, no, you're not. Like you have no, like, again, people don't know how wrong they are when it comes to proper training and such.
And
what's trying to be Ronnie Coleman.
What kills me is, like, I would go to the gym and someone has already set up a workout plan, whether it be a trainer from the team or whatever.
Right.
This is what we're doing for the off-season training. And you see people going into the weight room, and it's like like there is no plan. It's like
It's a Wild West show.
like I'm going in and I'm just
It's the
gonna-
most. It's
I'm
the
gonna
most
do
random,
something.
Right. It's the most random thing that there is, and it literally drives me nuts.
and it can't be. And I see people at the rec like daily, in there daily, but I'm not seeing any change. I don't know. Somebody might have lost some weight, but like I'm not really seeing.
Well, we'll talk about instinctual training. You've heard this phrase?
No.
No, I have heard
Oh,
that.
you never heard it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, people say, well, what do I feel like doing today? We go in the gym.
Okay.
What do I feel like doing?
Well, that sounds like what I do.
Well, that's called an instinctual approach to, well, I'm going to go, what exercises am I going to do today? I guess I'll do some chest and biceps. So I'll do these exercises. Then the next week, you do something completely different. It's just completely random, right? It's instinctual, whatever you feel like doing it that day. And one of my favorite quotes is by a guy named Mike Messer, and he said, if we trained instinctually, and we actually used the instinctual impulse and applied it to resistance training, we're more likely to defecate on a weight than lift. Okay, it's not unequivocally correct to use the limbic system, which is the instinctual part of the brain, the fight or flight, and apply that type of methodology towards something that has to be scientifically systematic.
So, like I'll go home this evening, and my goal is to run 3 miles in 30 minutes.
Correct.
And I'm like right there at it.
Yes.
And I've just been kind of slowly building myself up to that.
Okay.
But the problem that I have is like I don't really drink anything pretty much because it's late. So I shower, pretty much go to bed. Now in the morning I'm up and I'm with my water all day.
So what's your thought process to that? Explain it to me.
Well, one, I don't want to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So that's, but I don't know. Like whatever's gotten me. I used to love to wake up first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason now, like late evening makes me like, I can get everything done. I can eat, and then I can get my workout in, take a shower, go to bed. I'm good.
Right. But one of the keys to athletic performance is avoiding a malnourished state. Correct?
Right.
Right. So why do you think they call it breakfast? Because you're breaking your fast. Okay? So,
Right.
So if you go 8 hours without food during your sleep cycle, you're automatically waking up in a malnourished state. Automatically, because all the biochemical reactions that have taken place during your sleep cycle have taken nutritional intake requirement. Right.
See, and I'm thinking on the other, I'm on the flip side of that. Like I'm thinking I don't want to eat and then go to bed.
Why?
But I'm thinking
You're gonna get fat if you do that, Carl.
yeah, in my head, in my mindset, yeah. Like I'm thinking, like, okay, I don't want to eat and then go to bed and go to take that to bed with you.
Because that's what they say, right?
That's what they say. Yeah,
All right,
that's
so-
all I mean.
So I have this talk with people on a daily basis. Who are they?
I've
never met
I don't
they.
remember any of them.
Yeah, I've never met they. There's this mythical they that live in an ivory tower that dictate everything that we do. Right? Like, don't unequivocally take some rule that someone said with no explanation or understanding and apply it to your life. That's madness. Think about what it is and think about the application of it, and does it make sense? You were one of the top athletes in this ever to come out of this state, Carl. Why are you living like some old dude that's afraid of getting fat? What are you doing, man?
I don't know. I'm stuck into the idea of I could even make the case I'm almost addicted to working out. Like if I'm not working out, something is wrong. Like
that's not necessarily a problem as long as you have the nutritional intake there. And if you don't eat, as long as you don't eat carbohydrates before you go to bed, you don't trigger an insulin response from the pancreas, then you're not going to gain body fat. But if you have like a healthy fat and some type of animal protein before you go to bed. And that's going to provide the building blocks you need to repair the tissues during your sleep cycle without triggering an insulin response that's going to create triglycerides and make you gain
What is a healthy fat? And like, does that mean like you could just eat like a piece of like baked chicken before bed? But what's a healthy fat?
A healthy fat is a fat that's liquid at room temperature. That's a common rule that everybody can apply without me getting into all the fancy science.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's liquid
at room temperature. Right.
So like olive oil.
So basically monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats are healthy. Primarily monounsaturated are the most healthy fats that you can eat. So we're talking about avocado oil, olive oil, these things, macadamia nut oil also. Polyunsaturated fats, you can find those in all natural peanut butter, not Jif, guys, okay? Not Jif.
That might be my brand.
We're talking about peanut butter. There's only 2 ingredients, which is peanuts and salt. The kind has oil on top. You got to mix up, put in the refrigerator, and all that kind of stuff. That's really healthy fats, and they're not going to clog up your heart. The reason you can't eat saturated fat is because the melting point to saturated fat is 115 degrees Fahrenheit plus. So if you eat saturated fat, when it's digested and converted to monomer form, put in our bloodstream, it's now an environment that is lower than its melting point. Yeah. So it wants to form solid aggregates and be in a solid state in our body. And that's going to clog up our heart and give us heart disease. But unsaturated fat, the melting point, is about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is below room temperature and below our body temperature. So if you eat monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats, they're going to stay liquid in our bloodstream, and it's impossible for them to give us heart disease.
Yeah. Man, because and it's funny because I just seen, like, and this is a little bit off topic, but I seen a gentleman, I probably seen him 3-4 weeks ago, and he was walking around, he's a little heavy set guy. I seen him this weekend, both his legs gone. And it's like, and it just kind of, I've been in the gym ever since trying to watch what I eat because it's like with the sugars and everything you're saying, diabetes, and it's just like, that scares me to death.
It killed my mother. It's one of the reasons I know so much that I know because.
So it's like all that, because in what you're saying about sugar, just like how our body reacts, what you're saying about the glucose in the water and everything like that connects with me. So
yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's bigger than just athletes, I think, and just to drive that point home, this is about
overall health,
right? Which again, health. I think is.
And I think we can all apply a little bit of that to our lives.
Again, reason why I wanted you to get into all of this, just because I think it is a. I mean, even someone like me who's still doing things the wrong way, or doing things the wrong way, you're providing information. Helpful information for those who are not doing anything and letting them know you don't have to do a bunch.
No.
You just have to, basically, if you can eat right.
Yeah.
And drink your water.
Yeah.
Do I have time to give a basic rundown of how to eat?
Yes.
I know you wanted me to cover that. Right.
Yes.
Okay, so get back to what we talked about earlier in the show with a foundational approach and a situational approach to try to get through this so everybody can listen to it and get some help. The foundational approach is basically like, so if you're a parent and you're trying to feed your kid correctly, again, don't depend on the school system or the coaches to do this for you. It is your job as a parent to make sure that your kids get fed correctly. And the easiest approach is going to be three solid meals, 3 primary meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 snacks. Okay. And the primary meals need to be centered around protein, animal protein, not plant protein. So a breakfast would look something like eggs and a little bit of egg whites with some oatmeal and some fruit. And then lunch would look something like chicken breast with some starchy complex carbohydrates like rice, potatoes, pastas, and then a healthy fat source like avocado oil, olive oil, or a handful of peanuts, handful of mixed nuts, or peanut butter sandwich, like you said, would be fine. Okay. And then
dinner. Mixed nuts too.
Yep. And then dinner would be something like, salmon, chicken breast, lean red meat. Again, an animal protein source to cover your structural need because protein is our structure nutrient. It's what replenishes all of our structures, our muscles, our skin, our hair, our eyes, our nails. Everything's made of protein, guys. And then a complex carbohydrate source. Again, that's going to be low glycemic. You want low glycemic. And what that means is a glycemic index is basically something that dictates how easily a carbohydrate will trigger your blood glucose spike, because if you spike your blood glucose, you're going to trigger insulin release. And insulin is our storage hormone that's going to take the excess sugar, convert it to triglycerides, stored as body fat. We don't want that. So we want low glycemic carbohydrates when we eat. And then the two snacks should not include carbohydrates. They should be like a fast digesting animal protein, like whey protein, then maybe, like an apple or a banana, and again, like some peanut butter or a handful of nuts. You need healthy fats and healthy proteins every 2 to 3 hours. And again, this is a foundational approach to make sure that your child has enough nutrients for proper growth and development. And then with regards to the game or practice, you would like to have some type of meal about 30 to 45 minutes before the practice of the game that does not have fats, that's centered around a fast digesting protein like a whey protein drink. Have something that's starchy like graham crackers with some fruit like a banana, something like that. And then during the game, the primary function is hydration. I would recommend alternating 8 ounces of water with 8 ounces of Gatorade. 8 ounces of water, 8 ounces of Gatorade, because you need a little bit more water than you need Gatorade. Okay, because there's so much sugar in Gatorade, it can actually compromise your hydration if you drink too much of it too fast. And then after the game, you want to replenish glycogen, so you want a carbohydrate source, but you also want some protein and some healthy fats after the game to make sure that you start, replenishing your glycogen and repairing whatever tissue damage was done during the game, the practice, or the workout.
He just laid it out for y'all. If you can't get enough from that, we can't help you no more.
Yeah, I mean,
does that answer the?
Yes,
that's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, I think for me, I thought this was extremely, extremely important information that I think everybody needs to know. And pick up something. Take something. Take something from the conversation today. Because if you don't, and you just kind of go, and again, I'm a person who just was going, and I realized too that I was wrong on my part. So please take the information. And again, we appreciate, second term in, we needed it because we thought it was really, really information that I think that a lot of parents needed to know. All right.
Happy to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Lee, and we're out of here, and we will be back to talk to you again next week.
The opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of WVRC Media, its management, employees, or sponsors. Follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Carl Lee. Visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk for more.